My name is Sharon. Months have passed since that fateful day, and I still can't help but smile when I see the Instagram posts of my mother, Diana, posing as a high society matriarch at the lake house. She's all about champagne parties and captions of legacy, but what she doesn't show are the hefty tax bills and the leaking roof. I remember the day I updated the county records, directing all future tax invoices to them. It was a simple click, but it was like closing the door on their greed for good. They got the view and I got my freedom. Let me take you back to that day in the private dining room. The moment I stepped into that place, it felt like a gilded cage. The air was thick with the smell of betrayal, and the overpriced lilies only made it more suffocating. At the head of the table sat my mother, Diana, a woman obsessed with her social status. She was flanked by my stepfather, Victor, a man always looking for a quick buck, and a sleek-looking lawyer in a pinstripe suit I'd never met before. There were no menus on the table, just a thick legal document waiting like a loaded gun. The lawyer wasted no time and slid the contract towards me, saying, "Your mother just wants what's fair." I didn't let my emotions get the better of me. I looked around the table, met each of their eyes, and started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My mother frowned, clearly confused. That's when I smiled for the first time that day. "You're a lot of people," I said calmly. Funny thing is, I only brought one person too. I was a forensic accountant. For the past few years, I'd been uncovering people's hidden assets and debts. But to them, I was just Sharon, the unruly daughter who didn't follow their rules. Diana broke the silence with her fake, sweet voice. "We're not fighting, dear. We're being logical. Look at your life. You're single, no kids, and your job is so intense." She waved her hand at my blazer as if it was a sin to be self-sufficient. "What do you need the lake house for? It's just sitting there empty, while Victor and I have a reputation to uphold and a family to support." I really looked at her then, and for the first time, I felt nothing but cold detachment. I remembered my father's funeral 6 months ago. It was pouring, and I was holding his cremation urn, trying to come to terms with my loss. Diana leaned over and whispered that the humidity would ruin her hair and asked if I'd brought the checkbook for the caterer. That day, they broke me, but what they didn't know was that while they worried about their appearance, I was filing the papers to become the executor of the estate. I told her, "I don't need the house, Mother. I own it. There's a big difference." Victor slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware rattle. "Don't be smart with us, Sharon. Your father wasn't in his right mind when he signed that will. You manipulated him. We can tie you up in court and drain your money until you beg us for a deal." The lawyer then pushed the contract closer. "It's a generous offer, 60-40 split. You keep the cash, they get the real estate. Everyone's happy." But I knew they thought they had me cornered. Little did they know I'd spent the last 3 weeks doing what I did best, following the money. I leaned back and said, "You're right. This could get ugly in court. That's why I'm not here to negotiate." Just then, I glanced at the door as it opened. It was my attorney, Isabella. Isabella was a force to be reckoned with. She walked in wearing a suit that cost more than Victor's car and carried a leather portfolio like a shield. Without a smile or an introduction, she sat down at the empty side of the table. Victor demanded, "Who is this?" "This is a private family meeting." Isabella calmly replied, "Sit down, Mr. Thompson. My name is Isabella Reed, and I'm representing Sharon as the executor of the estate. This morning, we filed a motion for a full forensic accounting of all the estate's assets." Diana laughed nervously. "Forensic accounting? It's just a simple inheritance." I finally met her eyes and said, "It was simple until I started looking into where Victor's money was going." Isabella opened her portfolio and slid a single photo across the table. It was Victor, red-faced and shouting, outside an illegal gambling den in a neighboring town. "We're not here to negotiate the will, Diana. We're here to talk about the $300,000 debt Victor tried to hide in the estate's liabilities." Victor's face turned white. The aggression in his eyes was replaced by pure fear. Isabella didn't stop there. She pulled out a thick black binder and dropped it on the table. This is the forensic summary of Victor's financial activities over the last 24 months. Do you want me to go over the highlights or skip straight to the second mortgage he took out on your house without your signature? Diana's head snapped towards Victor. What? Victor opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. I leaned forward and said, "It's not just the mortgage. There are 6 maxed-out credit cards, a failing business line of credit, and a huge debt to some very dangerous people." The realization hit Diana like a ton of bricks. It wasn't heartbreak, it was humiliation. She had always curated an image of a perfect high society couple, and now it was all falling apart. The lawyer, seeing the sinking ship, quickly packed up his things and mumbled, "This meeting is over. I was hired to draft a family settlement, not to be part of a fraud." Diana grabbed his sleeve. "You can't leave. We have to fix this." I stood up and said, "You can't fix a black hole, Mom. You thought I was the villain, but I'm the one who knows how to count." I reached into my purse, pulled out a $100 bill, and dropped it on the unsigned contract. "For the water and the show," I said, then turned to leave. Isabella followed me. But our troubles weren't over. In the parking lot, Victor circled around in his SUV and blocked me. He got out, his face purple with rage, holding a tire iron. He smashed my driver, side mirror, and started ranting about humiliation and money. Isabella stepped forward and told him to put it down, but Victor just roared, "This is family business." Diana rushed in, not to stop him, but to use his violence to get me to give them the money. She warned that Victor would be killed if I didn't, and accused me of being selfish. Something inside me snapped. "Fine," I said, putting my hands up. "You win." I told Isabella to draft the transfer of the Finger Lakes Lake House. Victor barely read the deed. He just saw the address and stopped. Diana's hysteria turned to greed. "My house," she whispered. I signed and they drove off celebrating. But they didn't read Section 4, Paragraph B. 3 weeks later, when the deed was recorded, Victor tried to sell the house but couldn't. It wasn't a simple deed of ownership. It was a life estate. They could live there, but they couldn't sell, mortgage, or cash it in. And under the law, they were responsible for all the costs. They thought they'd taken my legacy, but instead, they locked themselves in a gilded cage. And I walked away with my freedom and the $1.8 million in liquid inheritance, safe and sound.